My landlord thought keeping my $3,000 deposit was free money. By the time I was done, that one decision had cost him a little over $40,000. His rental license, his quiet little side income, and the thing he cared about most, which was his good name in a town where everybody knows everybody. Here's exactly how it happened. I rented a one-bedroom apartment for 2 years from a guy I'll call Dale. Dale owned maybe 6 or 7 units around town. He drove a truck that cost more than some houses, and he wore that truck like it was a personality. Every month the rent went out on time, every month like clockwork, and every single time I asked him to fix something, Dale was swamped. The heater died in the second winter. I called, I texted. I sent him a photo of the thermostat reading 51 degrees in my own living room. Dale told me to layer up and that he'd get to it. He never got to it. I bought a space heater with my own money and quietly ate the electric bill. That was Dale in one sentence. Always too busy to do his job, never too busy to cash a check. He also had a habit of letting himself in without notice, which I'll just leave right there for you to sit with. So when my lease ended, I did something Dale clearly didn't expect. I cleaned that apartment like I was being graded on it. I steam cleaned the carpet. I patched every nail hole and repainted the 2 walls I'd hung pictures on, color matched to the original. I photographed every room. Then I shot a slow walkthrough video narrating the date out loud, every corner, every counter, the empty closets, the spotless oven. I left that place cleaner than the day I moved in. And I am so glad I did. Hang on to that detail because it matters more than anything else in this story. 30 days went by. No deposit. I called Dale. He didn't pick up. I called again 2 days later and he said the check was in the works. Another week passed. Then I got a letter. Dale was keeping the entire deposit, all $3,000. His itemized list was 4 lines long and gloriously vague. Carpet, paint, cleaning, wear and tear. No receipts, no invoices, no before photos, just 4 words and a number, which was my number, which was now apparently his number. Dale, my friend, you really should have read up on the law before you mailed that. Because here's the thing about security deposits. In my state, a landlord has 30 days after you move out to either hand back your full deposit or send you an itemized list of damages backed by actual receipts. That is the law, not a suggestion, a law. And if a landlord keeps your money in bad faith with no real proof, you can take them to court and recover up to 3 times the deposit. Lawyers call that treble damages. I just called it Tuesday, so I started a binder. Real paper, real tabs. My photos printed and dated. Stills pulled from the walkthrough video. The certified mail receipt from when I'd sent Dale my forwarding address, which meant he couldn't pretend he didn't know where to mail the money. And his 4-word letter, which was about to become the single best piece of evidence I owned. Then, because I wanted to understand exactly who I was dealing with, I started reading up on Dale. That's when this stopped being about $3,000. The first thing I found was that Dale was supposed to keep tenant deposits in a separate account, the way the law requires, and there was no sign he ever had. He'd been treating deposits like loose spending money for years. The second thing was the basement. One of his units was a basement apartment in an older house, and that basement had never been permitted as a living space. No certificate of occupancy. No legal second exit. A family was living down there, paying him cash every month, in a unit the city didn't even know existed. And the third thing, the one that made me sit back in my chair, was that I wasn't the first tenant Dale had run the deposit trick on. Not even close. I sent Dale a formal demand letter, certified, giving him one clean chance to return my deposit and avoid court. He mailed it back with the word DENIED written across the top in marker. I am not exaggerating. He scrawled one word on a legal demand and mailed it back to me like a man who had never once in his life been told no. Okay, Dale, we'll do it your way. I filed in small claims court. It cost me about $50. On the court date, I showed up with my binder, my printed photos, my walkthrough video loaded on a tablet, and the certified receipts. Dale showed up with nothing. No photos, no receipts, no proof of a single dollar of damage. He stood there and told the judge I had trashed the place, and the judge calmly asked him to show one image of the damage. He couldn't. The judge looked at my time-stamped photos of a spotless apartment, looked at Dale's 4-word letter, and ruled for me. Treble damages, $9,000 plus my court costs. Dale's free money had just tripled and changed directions. But I wasn't done. Remember the basement. I reported the unpermitted basement unit to the city's building department. Not purely out of spite, though I won't pretend spite wasn't in the room. There was a family living in a space with no legal exit, and if a fire had ever started down there, that's a tragedy, not a paperwork problem. The city sent an inspector. The inspector found the basement. Then, since they were already on site, they looked at the rest of Dale's properties. They found work done without permits. They found a stair railing that wasn't up to code and an electrical panel someone's cousin had clearly installed on a weekend. The fines started stacking. Each violation its own line item. Each unpermitted unit its own headache. And Dale was ordered to bring everything up to code or stop renting it, which for the basement meant the family had to be relocated and Dale lost that monthly cash for good. Then the other tenants found me. Or I found them on a local forum where people had quietly been warning each other about Dale for years. Two of them had the exact same four-word letter I did, same vague list, same kept deposit. They had just assumed there was nothing they could do about it. There was plenty they could do. I shared my binder, my court paperwork, the statute, all of it. Both of them filed. Both of them won. That's another $6,000 or so in treble damages marching out of Dale's pocket behind mine. So let's add it up, the way Dale never bothered to. My $9,000 in treble damages and costs. $6,000 more to the two other tenants. City fines that ran well into the thousands. The cost of actually bringing his units up to code, permits, contractors, an electrician who didn't moonlight. The basement rent he would never collect again. And the licensing and back paperwork it took to make his little rental empire legal in the first place. By the time the dust settled, keeping my $3,000 had cost Dale a little over $40,000. I sat down and ran the math twice because I genuinely couldn't believe it the first time. And here's the part Dale couldn't write a check to fix. In a town that's small, word travels fast. The landlord who got dragged through small claims, fined by the city, and named on the local forum is not the landlord people line up to rent from. His applications dried up. Two of his units sat empty. He ended up selling a couple of them off, and I heard the new owner had to gut the basement just to make it legal. As for me, I got my $9,000. I framed exactly none of it. I just moved into a new place with a landlord who fixed the heater the same week I asked, and I felt no particular need to ever think about Dale again. Although here I am, telling you all about him, so maybe I'm not quite as over it as I claim. Here's the one thing I want you to take from this. Document everything. Take the photos, shoot the video, send the certified letter, keep the receipts. It feels like overkill, like you're being paranoid right up until the day it's the only thing standing between you and a guy like Dale. The people who win these fights aren't the loudest ones in the room. They're the ones holding the binder. So tell me, has a landlord ever pulled the disappearing deposit trick on you, and did you ever get it back? Drop it in the comments, I read them. If watching Dale lose 40 grand made your day a little better, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps more than you'd think. And stick around, because the next story is about a manager who looked me in the eye and told me I was easy to replace, right before he found out exactly how wrong he was.